and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. So, this is no longer Black History Month, so, I no longer have to cover black presidential candidates. Not saying it's a particularly good or bad thing, but it's a thing. Anyways, to skip all of the BS at the beginning, because I got nothing to say in this part, let's get right into the news. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu to be indicted on corruption charges pending hearing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be indicted on bribery and breach of trust charges arising from 3 separate corruption investigations pending a hearing, Israel's Attorney General announced Thursday evening. The announcement, so close to April's general election, marks a dramatic moment in Israeli politics and is a major blow to Netanyahu as he seeks a 5th term in office. He has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing, denouncing the investigations as a media-led witch hunt. In a prime-time broadcast shortly after the announcement, Netanyahu blamed the left for pressuring Attorney General, I'm not going to try saying that, a Netanyahu appointee to issue an indictment. The left understands that they will not beat me at the ballot box, Netanyahu said. They exerted extraordinary pressure on the Attorney General to issue an indictment, even though there was nothing in order to influence the elections and to crown a left-wing government. Well, first of all, CNN's pretty anti-Semitic for reporting this. Criticizing anybody who's Jewish is anti-Semitic. Am I right? Am I right, bros? Am I right? Okay, but in all seriousness, this is very heavy charges against Benjamin Netanyahu. And, well, hopefully this means no more Netanyahu, because everybody's sick of the Likud government. Well, except for Benjamin, I keep trying to say Benjamin. I'm trying to mix Benjamin Netanyahu with Ben Shapiro. Benjamin Shapiro. I can't even try to think of a thing that'll mix them together. But Ben Shapiro, he still loves Benjamin Netanyahu. He thinks everybody loves Benjamin Netanyahu, despite the fact that nobody does. Nobody does. He's the reason people keep criticizing the Israeli government. I think him and some Likud officials made statements saying they want the Palestinians to be in concentration camps. Okay? Isn't the whole reason your country exists because you were escaping concentration camps? You probably should, think a bit more clearly before you talk, Benjamin. But anyways, next story coming out of New York, and not the one you think. This is one that's kind of slipping through the radar, because, Andrew Cuomo's trying to pass a new Amazon thing, which is bad, but this is something that could actually have a lot more effects on the political scene in New York. State Dems to vote on and pass fusion voting ban. The State Democratic Party on Monday will take up a proposal pushed by its Progressive Caucus to support a ban on fusion voting, something a number of elected officials and key party leaders, including returning State Party Chairman Jay Jacobs, are pushing. In a telephone interview this afternoon, Jacobs confirmed that the ban on fusion voting will indeed be on the table when the committee members gather in Westchester next week to conduct a variety of business, including electing him to return to his position as State Party Chair for those who was recently nominated by Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, many people are questioning the reason Andrew Cuomo and the State Democratic Party is now cracking down on fusion voting, especially considering fusion voting has helped the Democratic Party a lot. In the last election, Andrew Cuomo was on the ballot line of the Democratic Party, the Independence Party of New York, the Women's Equality Party of New York, and the Working Families Party of New York. The Women's Equality Party of New York was actually created just to be a ballot line for the State Democratic Party. And they have used fusion voting to their advantage because a lot of times there would be a left-wing third party in New York, like the Liberal Party of New York and the Labor Party of New York, who would sometimes be a fusion ballot with the Democrat Although sometimes it would be a fusion vote with the Republican, like with Charles Rangel. But, there's one particular reason people seem to notice that Cuomo is doing this now, especially considering at the beginning of Cuomo's tenure as governor, he was super supportive of fusion voting. 2018, the Working Families Party was able to pull back on Cuomo's control and endorsed Cynthia Nixon and Jumaine Williams in the primary. This is why he's doing this. He is literally restricting the ability of these parties to actually get, endorsements for him because they didn't endorse him in the primary. And this is kind of another reason why people consider I consider Andrew Cuomo one of the most corrupt governors in U.S. I guess currently, because I'm pretty sure there were probably, more corrupt ones in the past. I think Mr. Beat made a video about that, or is going to, I don't know. But Cuomo is really, really corrupt. I mean, it's pretty much a joke at this point. You can literally make a joke about Andrew Cuomo's corruptness. For example, here's how I usually think of it. Andrew Cuomo's so corrupt. How corrupt is he? He's so corrupt that he created an organization in the New York state government to combat corruption, and when that organization was targeting his administration, he immediately disbanded it. I mean, that's pretty much how corrupt Andrew Cuomo is. And remember, he's a Democrat, but he's resisting Trump, so that's a good thing. But who literally cares about Andrew Cuomo at this point? I don't really care about Andrew Cuomo at all, to be quite honest. Well, I only care about him in the sense that I want him kicked out of office, for real. Who knows? Maybe when next election rolls around, Zephyr Teachout can kick him out of office. The next story is something that really makes me angry about certain, how the two parties are pretty much bought and sold by the same people. Harry Reid wishes for George W. Bush again every day. Quote. That was a quote. Anyways, this is after he, was like, oh, I got out of my pancreatic cancer. He's he pretty much, I would read this, but it doesn't really get much into that until, later. It mostly talks about his cancer diagnosis. But he says, he says that he wishes that, he's the Trump administration is so bad that George W. Bush was such a good man and I want George W. Bush presidency. I don't. Because here's the thing. For some reason, people are really, the Democratic Party is really stupid in regards to, we can't, if we hate anybody who hates Donald Trump has to be, the most brilliant person ever. They can agree on Donald Trump on every issue, but as long as they say, oh, Donald Trump is stinky and ugly and bad, and they're like, whoa, yes. George W. Bush. George W. Bush said that, and if you're against Donald Trump, or if you say something that is for Donald Trump, or even slightly disagreeing with you on Donald Trump and saying how he's not, you're over exaggerating just a little bit, they immediately pin you as the bad guy. For example, George W. Bush says, I think Donald Trump is bad, despite the fact that he's also done a lot of bad things. They're like, yes, George W. Bush, you're our ally, you're our hero, you're a good Republican, we want the good Republicans like George W. Bush back in the U.S. And then people like WikiLeaks, who say, they do things that are slightly, they do things that, show flaws within the Democratic Party, despite the fact that they have revealed a lot of George W. Bush's war crimes, and they're like, ew, gross, disgusting. But George W. Bush, he literally put people in prison without any cause and tortured them. He curbed our civil liberties to the point where he's listening to this right now I mean, that's a slight exaggeration, but the government is listening to everything we do, everything we type. They have our metadata and everything. It's not a crazy conspiracy theory. This is something that actually happened. This is stuff that Democrats voted for. He brought us into a war that we had no reason in being in. Just because we wanted a country's foreign oil. He ruined the economy. He gave the rich, tax cuts. And then left the middle class to hang out and dry. Wow. That is incredible. That is... Oof. But yeah, Donald Trump said racist things, so... George W. Bush, I'll miss you. Even after the Donald Trump administration ends and I officially put him on my presidential rankings list... I 100% believe that he's not going to be below George W. Bush. He'll either be slightly above him or a couple of ones above him, but he's not going to be under him unless he does the one thing that, he's done a couple of things that George W. Bush has done, but there's one more thing that he has to do to officially put him on the bottom. Actually go to war. And not drone strikes. And not stuff. He has to literally send troops overseas or down in Venezuela, depending on how things go down there. He has to literally do that before I put him under George W. Bush. But yeah, that is a big thing. Speaking of big things, I don't have a news article that covers this, but I do have some. Because I didn't really plan on talking about this at all. Because, I don't know much about it in particular. It's the Michael Cohen hearing. Unsurprisingly, I literally didn't care that much about the Michael Cohen hearing. Because a lot of the stuff that, even during the hearing, I did see, Cohen's opening statement. And I did see, a couple of flaws. When he said, Roger Stone had personal hearings with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He called him and told him on January 28th... no, not on January 20th. July 28th or something. He said, oh, we're gonna reveal some Hillary Clinton email leaks. Okay, but on July 21st... Julian Assange revealed that he was going to leak more stuff about Hillary Clinton. It was already public knowledge. Pretty much it appears that what is going on in the Cohen hearings right now is pretty much what I've been saying the whole time. You're not going to get him on Putin puppet stuff. You're not going to get him on, the big, Russiagate of oh, he's in the Kremlin's hand and blah, 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 blah. You're going to get him on the money laundering, on the campaign finance violations, on the hush money. That's what you're going to get him on. And Jimmy Dore points out in a lot of his most recent videos how the media is now trying to dumb down the Russia situation a bit. To try and make it a bit more nuanced. Because they're listen, lower your expectations because this is not going to be what you think it is. Because they've been building it up for so long, they were hoping something was there, but nothing is there that they can really work for. Well, granted, any reasonable journalist would have just, before making any assumptions about Russia or Putin's puppet or anything like that, they would have actually waited until the Mueller report was finished before they even said what was in it. But, that's not going to get you clicks. Buying hush money and stealing money directly from your campaign financing to pay for a prostitute to keep quiet about an affair, that's not going to get you clicks. Oh wait, that is going to get you clicks, because that's perfectly clickbait. But, whatever. The Mueller report's going to come out at one point, and then they're going to say, oh, well, it's not particularly Russia, it's blah, 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 blah. If you really want to get him on anything, get him on, Israel buying him or Saudi Arabia. But anyways, this next news story isn't a news story. It's actually a thing that happened. Pramila Jayapal officially unveiled her new Medicare-For-All bill. HR 1384. And many people like me are still mad that they didn't just call this HR 676. But whatever. I'm assuming since John Conyers is not in the House anymore, she didn't feel right just taking his bill and running with it. Maybe, so she just rewrote some of the stuff and, blah, 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 blah. There are some things about the bill that are changed, because I think I heard in the original bill it was 4 years to transition to Medicare-For-All, but in the new bill it's only 2 years, and it includes a lot of, it gets very detailed. Unlike the Green New Deal resolution, which is more of a outline, this one is more like detailed policy positions. And many people it's been exciting because many people have discovered that, it's not discovered, this is well known, there's currently 106 co-sponsors of the bill, many of who are no-brainers, such as Raul Grijalva, Ro Khanna, Barbara Lee. Some of them are a little surprising, like... I'm trying to find one that's super surprising. I guess Joe Kennedy. But then there's some ones that are... Then there are also a lot of Democratic representatives that aren't co-sponsoring the bill. Again, no surprises, really. Like, for example, there's one that I'm going to get really mad about. David Price, Max Rose, Hakeem Jeffries, Jill Cisneros, Nancy Pelosi, Lucy McBath, Cherry Bustos, Sharice Davids, Steny Hoyer, Seth Moulton, TJ Cox, I don't know who that guy is, Jason Crow, what a surprise, Colin Peterson. Again, none of these guys are surprising. These are all the moderates and the conservative Democrats. Antonio Delgado, G.K. Butterfield. None of these guys are surprising. Literally none of them are surprising. At all. Because, well, they're all the moderates, and they're all the conservatives, and they're all the blah, 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 blah. But, it's just, well, what else did you expect? These guys are just they're just the moderates. But there are some moderates like Jared Golden that are also co-sponsoring the bill because they know that they gotta read the writing on the walls. And David Price, I'm probably gonna give him a call at one point. I was gonna give him a call in this episode, but I don't feel like it. I'll give him a call later. I'll give him a week or so to endorse the resolution on his own. And then I'll call it and put it in the next episode or something. But anyways, the next story is from CNN again. And it's news about the 2020 election, kind of. CNN to host 2020 town hall with 3 candidates. That's right, 3 different candidates are going to be having one town hall. And these are the kiddie table candidates. The candidates that people are you don't have any chance, so we're just going to lump you all here. And these candidates are as follows: John Delaney, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Buttigieg. Surprised that I took them this long to get Tulsi Gabbard into a town hall. And again, she doesn't get her own. We'll get to a little bit about town halls in a second here, but it's not surprising that Tulsi gets to be in a town hall sharing it with these 2 guys, because, well, what would you expect? She's just a progressive challenger running against, a lot of more centrist neoliberal moderates, but, she's rallying against the military-industrial complex, but, that's not a reason why they're gonna put her in, the kiddie table debates. They're putting her in there because blah, nah, 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 nah. To be perfectly honest, this was totally expected that they were gonna shaft Tulsi Gabbard while still giving her, a quote-unquote fighting chance. But, Tulsi wasn't gonna get that much love in the media anyways. The media still barely gives Bernie Sanders love. But, that's life. People are gonna love you, people are gonna hate you. And speaking of love and hate, I mean, this isn't even directly a thing, but love and hate kind of, I mean, really, it ties into nothing, but this is actually the first time that I got to say this in a while. There was an election, like, not that long ago, and people I endorsed were in it. Wow. The first candidate that was in an election, well, actually two. There were two candidates in each race. The first race was the New York City Public Advocate race, which I dual endorsed Nomiki Konst and Jumaine Williams. They were both like solid progressives who were doing really well, and I felt that these two would have been good people to be public advocate of New York City. Well, Jumaine actually won the seat. Hooray! And Nomiki lost. Sad. But technically, this was a special election to fill in for a seat that's going to be filled in later this year. So technically, I get to keep both of them on the list because they are going to be in the race again. So my hope is Nomiki or Jumaine make it in the, like, to fill in their actual full term. But, you know, whatever happens, happens. The next race was Chicago mayor. I endorsed two candidates. LaShawn K. Ford, who was a progressive, like, state representative who endorsed Bernie Sanders, and Neil Salas Griffin, who was a teacher. I mean, he seemed rather progressive. I mean, the Chicago mayoral race, there were a lot of progressives running in the race. Tony Preckwinkle, Lori Lightfoot, Susan Mendoza to an extent, Willie Nelson to an extent. But anyways, I mean, and I also found out this great web series that actually details some of the candidates in the race. Link in the description, or I'll even put a card in this moment. But, you know, LaShawn and, like, everybody was running in this race to be, like, the progressive that was going to make a change. There was even, like, a Vice thing where they explained a lot of this stuff, and I'll put a card and stuff. I wish I knew this stuff before the election, so I would have made a more informed choice about the issues itself that were truly focused in this election. I mean, I endorsed LaShawn because LaShawn was the only person on his website that actually legitimately said, I'm going to make a universal healthcare system. Which, you know, it's a bit out of his jurisdiction as mayor, but, you know, whatever. At least it shows his ambition. I mean, he, like a lot of candidates were doing well, and of course, there was a lot of tension on who would win. Would it be Tony Preckwinkle, the one who was like the big, person who ran up from the bottom of the ladder to the top? Would it be Susan Mendoza, who was running to be the more, you know, Latino woman? Was it going to be the person that was endorsed by the Bernie Krats, and Chance the Rapper? I forgot her name. Was it going to be Willie Nelson, who had run for president before? Was it going to be, the guy whose brother and father were former mayors? Well, you see, they made it to a runoff. Tony Preckwinkle and someone who was apparently not suspected at all by the media to be a major contender, Lori Lightfoot. Like, nobody ran attack ads on her before she made it to the runoff. And now it's going to be Tony Preckwinkle, African-American woman, versus Lori Lightfoot, African gay woman. African-American. Which, you know, makes people excited in Chicago because either way, they're going to elect a African-American as their mayor. So, I mean, I guess it's one good thing. Though, one question I was asked by someone who follows me on social media was, am I going to endorse somebody in the runoff? And it's a question that I actually want to ask people who were in the race, you know, because here's the thing, I did research, and it turns out that Lori and Preckwinkle, neither of which actually got, they got a lot of votes, but the counties they missed were very plentiful. They missed a lot of important counties, particularly ones that you would think that wouldn't not vote for them, they miss a lot of African American central counties. And that is going to be a pretty big pickle. So a lot of these guys, both like Lori and Tony, they're eyeing for endorsements from everybody. Especially the one who won the most counties, Willie Nelson. They both are going to meet Willie Nelson and are going to find out who is he going to endorse. Last time around, he endorsed Chuy Garcia when he ran for Chicago mayor. So I hope that he has at least the heart to endorse who I'm going to endorse for the runoff. I'll give you a second to guess. Lori Lightfoot. Because I think she's more... I mean, her and Tony seem rather progressive. They both seem as progressive as each other. But Tony also has like the stink of like being in the Chicago machine a long time. Lori is at least kind of an outsider. Most of her positions were more, like they weren't exactly political positions. They were more like law positions. But anyways, I focused on Chicago race enough. I don't care about Chicago. Now let's move on to the 2020 election. First is news that does not relate directly to candidates. Bernie Sanders' town hall. Unsurprisingly, Bernie Sanders was unsurprisingly rigged. His town hall had people who weren't exactly, honest. Like, here's what they would say. They would say, like, this is a student from a local university. Unbeknownst to Bernie, that student at the university also happened to be an intern at a lobbyist firm. There was also a person who was a direct state leader of a Democratic Party, and I don't think they called him the state leader of a Democratic Party. They called him something else. And some of the questions they asked were like, really? Like, really? You're the one asking this? Like, there was this, like, young Latina woman, and she was asking about, like, people were talking about military interventionism, and I think that Venezuela and the military interventionism going on there is really good, but you don't want to actually endorse and fight for these, military and blah, blah, blah. When in actuality, no teen is pro-war. And there was this one kid who was like apparently like a university student. I don't know if he was caught being a snub or like caught being like a plant, but his thing was that he asked the question of like, I'm a university student and I don't know if how are you gonna pay for this free college bill? It's like, no university student is gonna be asking how you're gonna pay for free college. I'm a college student. I don't give a fuck where the money's coming from. It means I don't pay for it. I mean, and well, unfortunately, many people figured out that these were plants. And not even that long ago. Like I remember I was getting tweets about like him being a plant during the town hall. I was watching it on TV. And, well, they were 100% spot on. And, I mean, to be fair, Bernie had really good answers to all their questions. He was very clear with his answers, and even called them out on their BS when there was BS. Like, there's one time where a woman was like, well, not a woman, it was like a African-American man who was like, last time around, you didn't do well with African-Americans. And then Bernie Sanders was like, well, actually, if you look at the polls, I actually did well amongst African-American youths. I mean, he's not wrong. And before we get into one more thing about the 2020 election, and well, I'll just say one thing. CNN, not surprisingly, they stacked the town hall. What a surprise. They're anti-Bernie, and they show their anti-Bernie roots. What a surprise. Now, before I go into the bigger news about 2020, I'm going to go over some New Hampshire polling. What a cool thing. You see, New Hampshire polling is kind of important because New Hampshire is the first state that gets to vote. So, people are really looking at their polling and saying, who's currently polling and how well are they doing? Well, currently, here's how their polling is going for the Democrats. Bernie is leading with 26%. Joe Biden is at a distant second. I mean, not totally distant, but 22%. Kamala Harris at a very distant third with 10%. Elizabeth Warren with 7%. Beto O'Rourke with 5%. Amy Klobuchar with 4%. Cory Booker with 3%. And Pete Buttigieg, Tulsi Gabbard, Michael Bloomberg, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Sherrod Brown with 1%. Other with 3%. And undecided with 14%. With John Delaney and Hickenlooper getting 0% each. Now, I mean, that's kind of big, because that means, well, Bernie's in the lead. And, well, that's a good thing for me. But let's take a look at the Republican side, because Republicans, they don't really have much going on, especially considering many state parties have already agreed to not hold primaries and give the nomination to Donald Trump unequivocally. The only three candidates that they're doing polling for are Donald Trump, John Kasich, and Bill Weld. Because Bill Weld has an exploratory committee and John Kasich is highly speculated to run because everybody wants him to represent the moderate Republican, despite the fact that he absolutely does not represent moderates at all. Even though a lot of moderates really want him to run as a unified ticket, they're fucking stupid because they have no clue that he isn't a moderate at all. And they think that moderates are going to be the thing that wins, but we'll get to that in a second. Donald Trump is leading with 68 points. John Kasich has 17 points. And William Weld has 3 points. With undecided at 12%. I said points, but I mean percent. And, well, not surprising. Nobody really likes Bill Weld that much. Bill Weld would have had a much better chance of running in the Libertarian nomination. But, whatever. And finally, we got technically one more challenger. Even though I announced technically he was running a long time ago, he's made it official today. Washington Governor Jay Inslee announced his 2020 presidential bid. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee announced Friday that he is running for president, launching a bid which he intends to make combating climate change the central rationale for his campaign. Inslee announced the bid in a video made public on Friday. He is slated to hold a news conference in Seattle at a solar panel installer to expand upon his presidential announcement. He will be surrounded by friends, family, business owners who the company says has benefited from his climate policies. I'm Jay Inslee, and I'm running for president because I am the only candidate who will make defeating climate change our nation's #1 priority, the governor says in a more than a minute-long video that highlights his decades of focus on climate change and compares tackling the issue to President John F. Kennedy's focus to getting the country to the moon. We're the first generation to feel the sting of climate change, and we're the last that can do something about it, Inslee adds. We can do more than this. Join our movement. This is our movement. Not our movement, our moment. I messed it up. That's his field to burn. Our moment. And what do I think of Jay Inslee running for president? Personally, I don't mind it. I mean, would I vote for Jay Inslee? Depends. If he was the Democratic nominee, I could see myself voting for him. He's like my 6th choice out of all of the Democratic contenders, because Jay Inslee is, well, very good on the issue of climate change. It seems to be like his one thing that he's good at. Well, granted, he doesn't not accept corporate PAC money, but he's already accepted that he won't take fossil fuel money, and I did my research. He has not taken fossil fuel money in his life. There's some energy money he took, but I'm not entirely sure if those are like renewable energy or like not. And there's one more thing that makes his candidacy slightly cool. I didn't read that part of the article because I think you'll be interested to hearing it from me. Do you know who his second endorsement was? Go ahead, take a guess. His second endorsement wasn't from a politician. His second endorsement was from... As Stanley once said, enough said. That's not at all what he said. He said enough said. But anyways, I'm sure that you all want to know the main reason of this video. But before we do that, we gotta get into the major candidate of the day. Not major, he's minor. Nobody cares about him. Ronnie Crowell. He's a model. That's his thing, he's a model. Wow. I wonder why we haven't elected him to president yet. Now, Ronnie Crowell, he's been on like TV shows like Making Me a Supermodel. It seems that he's also trying to do the Howard Schultz. He's trying to run a big insurgent campaign on him being like the middle ground candidate and like being the centrist. When I tell people over and over again, centrism is not going to win. And you stink, Ronnie, and I will not be voting for you ever. There's not much to say. He hasn't actually explained his platform on his website. And he has no chance because he's running as an independent. What a surprise. And of course, well, the main topic of this video is going to be a contentious one because there's a whole lot of debate on this individual, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. Oh boy. Cenk. Now, before we get into anything, let me explain my whole history with Cenk Uygur. I've never met the man in person, nor do I really want to. No offense to Cenk, but I would like to meet Jimmy Dore in person. I'd like to meet Humanist Report in person. I'd like to meet Kyle Kalinske in person. Even like Sahil Habibi and Tom Barry of the New Left show. But I don't really want to meet Cenk though. No offense, Cenk, but I really don't care, to be quite honest. To be fair, let me explain some history of Cenk Uygur. He's a Turkish-American lawyer, businessman, columnist, journalist, activist, and political commentator. Uygur is the main host and the creator of the Young Turks, an American progressive political and social commentary program. Before beginning his career as a political commentator, he worked briefly as an associate attorney in Washington, D.C. and New York City. As a young man, Cenk Uygur supported abortion and socially conservative views on affirmative action and feminism. Over time, his views have changed, now identifying as a progressive. And that's why I hate him. The end. No, I'm just kidding. To be fair, I was also pretty young social conservative when I was a young lad. And when I say young lad, I mean before the age of 11. I always like to say this joke about like myself where it's like, I used to be anti-gay, then I turned 11. Oh boy. That can be taken in a whole lot of different contexts. And there's one thing that is slightly embarrassing about my viewpoints on gay marriage changing. My viewpoints on gay marriage and gay rights changed when I learned that the Blue Ranger from Power Rangers was gay. I'm being serious. David Yost from the original Power Rangers was gay. And while I was like, I like Power Rangers, so I guess being gay is alright after all. Oh boy, this is terrible admitting, but it's true. And now I look back on myself and I'm like, well, that's one way to turn from anti-gay to pro-gay. Let's be honest. Anyways, like back to Cenk Uygur. In college and law school, Uygur espoused politically conservative views during the presidencies of Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush. He wrote a column in the Daily Pennsylvanian criticizing the university for blah 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 blah. He argued that Clarence Thomas was treated unfairly. And then, he changed his mind. He also used to be a huge thing about his YouTube channel. The Young Turks were a group that participated in the Armenian genocide. Cenk Uygur originally didn't believe the Armenian genocide. People started, connecting the patterns. Cenk keeps denouncing that's what the meaning was. But, can you just admit it? Come on. You have views explicitly out there about you not believing in the Armenian genocide. And you just so happen to name your show after the group of people who committed the Armenian genocide. Just admit it. And we can let it go. Now, Cenk Uygur, of course, is the huge left-leaning, super progressive guy. He has done good. He's, he launched a political action committee called Wolfpack, which seeks to purely to end super PACs. He, also created Justice Democrats, which is a really good thing. And I 100% believe that he was unjustly removed from Justice Democrats. Apparently, I found out that, it was on his Wikipedia page a long time ago, but I found out that, his grandparents were 6 cousins, I guess. But anyways, he, to be fair, he has said, now, I've said a lot of good things about him, now let's get into some of the bad. He has said some SJW-ish things, but I can kind of forgive him for that. I forget explicitly what it is. He criticized, I think he criticized the Assassin's Creed game, the Assassin's Creed game where you're a pirate for, whaling or something. And, it's Cenk, it's a fucking video game. Let it go. I think he said something about Gamergate or something. I don't know. I could be completely wrong on that. Not on the pirate stuff. I remember that explicitly. But also Cenk kind of has a bit of an arrogance to him. Everybody makes that same joke. Of course. Let's let Cenk himself say it. Of course! To be fair, that's not explicitly a reason to not like him. I have catchphrases too, quote unquote. Me stealing Keemstars is one thing. But Cenk Uygur also, if I were to say one thing about him that I think would make the most sense, is he's kind of a slightly better Bill Maher. Unlike progressive, good people of new media, we have, Kyle at top, and then Jimmy Dore, and then, Humanist Report. I think maybe David Pakman might be under Cenk Uygur and above Bill Maher, but, they're kind of in the same field for me. And I think one of the biggest things that explains this would be Cenk Uygur's whole criticisms of voting on how to vote. Let me explain Cenk Uygur's position of voting with who did he vote for in the 2012 election. Keep in mind, he had constantly interviewed Rocky Anderson of the Justice Party and had explicitly stated that he agrees with Rocky Anderson's platform a whole lot, and he lives in California. But who did he vote for?
But I decided finally that I've got to do what I call an intellectually honest vote. And everybody can take this in different ways. And Anna earlier today pointed out to me that it is a little ironic to call it intellectually honest because honestly, the guy I would want is Rocky Anderson, right? But what I mean by that is I've got to vote in a realistic way, the way that I would vote if I was in a swing state, because that is the real decision before this country. And I'm doing a show, obviously, and I'm talking to all you guys all across the country and all across the world. And so it's playing games for me to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be cutesy and vote this way, but you guys should vote for Obama. And so I'm going to vote the way I would if the whole election was on the line. And I'd vote for Obama. Why am I happy with him? Anybody who watches this show knows I'm not.
Okay. Intellectually honest, my ass. I mean, to be fair, I would say, I am 100%, in the field of Jimmy Dore in this. Vote for the candidate you want. Don't vote for the candidate that you think is going to win. Don't vote for the candidate that you think will be the lesser of two evils. Vote for the candidate that you want to vote for, i.e., the one that you probably fit the ideologically closest to. Or, maybe if you want to be a little more happy and dipsy about it, vote for the one that'll make you feel the best. But don't vote for the person that you don't like and don't want to continue his administration because you want to be intellectually honest and vote the same way you would have voted in a swing state. I mean, technically, to be fair, Cenk, I will have voted the same way I would have voted in a swing state too if I were in the 2012 election. That option being Rocky Anderson or Jill Stein, because I would have voted for them. And I live in North Carolina. And, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't watching the Young Turks when I was 12. I wasn't. I was watching them when I was 14. So, it's not like he did the same thing for a different candidate that was super evil and... Oh, no, wait, I'm going to play that clip, am I?
I believe that you should vote like your vote matters, because it does. I'm going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Metaphorically unsubscribe. Technically I unsubscribed way before when they were shilling for Hillary Clinton a long time. They were shilling for her, the day Bernie lost. Again, you live in freaking California. It's not going to go red. It's not. And also, fuck those third-party people. Your votes mean nothing. You voted for Gary Johnson because you believe in his ideology? Well, fuck you then. You should have voted for Hillary Clinton. And you might say, well, you're taking him out of context, because in the beginning of the video, he explained how not every state is a safe state. Well, yes, that's true. But here's the thing. Cenk is the reason that progressives get stepped on all the fucking time. If you give them your vote, even after they spit in your face and kick you in the nuts, they're not going to get any better. They're not. Hillary Clinton has learned nothing from the last election. She has done nothing to try and get the longtime Democrat who voted for Jill Stein. She's not doing anything to earn their trust back. Kamala Harris is doing nothing. Tom Perez is doing nothing. The party is doing nothing to earn their vote back. Because there is a history of progressives just sitting idly by while they let this happen. It's not a big thing. It is literally the reason why Jesse Jackson and Dennis Kucinich and Mike Gravel and John Wolfe Jr. and all of these progressives They get to be shoved to the side while the neoliberals get to reign supreme. Because the thing is, they learned that we're not going to fight back if they do anything. Because here's the thing. I mean, Dennis Kucinich, like, he lost his election in Ohio, and then Cenk was like, Richard Conroy is this huge, great progressive. Candace Cadell Newton, why would you bet against this great progressive? This is the whole reason why Democrats and Bill Clinton reign supreme over the rest of the party. Because the Clinton ideas, they don't accept no for an answer. If the people want Bernie Sanders, they're not getting Bernie Sanders. They're getting Hillary Clinton. And Cenk is just letting this happen. And I mean, you might say, well, I mean, he formed Justice Democrats to primary the corporate Democrats. But what happens to the Justice Democrats when they lose? Nothing. Cenk just ignores the race. Doesn't endorse the Green running. Doesn't endorse the other candidates running. Cenk just moves on idly by. The lesser of two evils. We would not be in this situation currently if we always have evils. The two candidates are the evils. There is no good candidate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. There isn't any. And I mean, at least have the Kyle perspective of like, well, I mean, if you're in a swing state, you should probably vote for Hillary Clinton. But if you're in a safe state, you can vote your conscience so that you can get the Green Party to 5%. But Cenk is like, no, you gotta vote Hillary Clinton. It's the reason why Paul's ego doesn't want to vote for, like Bernie Sanders again. If the progressives just turn around and just go, yeah, I know I've been rallying against this corporate neoliberal Democrat for a long time, but, I mean, why don't we just let you win this one time so that next time around, we can win next time. I promise you that much. I mean, granted, I will stand by Bernie Sanders when he tries to fight, but when he gets knocked down and then refuses to get back up, I mean, you gotta stand next to the guy who's still fighting. I've said this before. If I get burned by the burn in 2020, the Green Party will be my aloe vera. And I'm 100% convinced that Ian Schlockman, Sedanam Kinamo, Kristen Moyo, Caesar Curry, Joe Collins, maybe not him, I probably might not vote for him, Dario Hunter, Howie Hawkins, those guys are fine with that. Like, and I mean, there are a lot of Greens that keep saying, like, we can't just be the sloppy seconds for the Democrats. Well, I mean, that means you lose all your voter base, pretty much. You always get these Democrats that are mad. Granted, it's probably not a lot compared to the independents that are in Greens that currently were gonna vote for you regardless. But you always get, like, a little bit of Democrats that are angry. Granted, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent. I'm a registered unaffiliated. But it's very telling that Cenk Uygur, he is getting to be the point where he is going to be the next Bill Maher, pretty much. Bill Maher, he was super happy with Bernie Sanders and like super endorsed Bernie Sanders and even endorsed him this time around. But then the second that Hillary Clinton won, he was like, I mean, why are you guys still running against Hillary Clinton? I mean, Hillary Clinton's our choice, right? It's why I like Kyle Kulinski and Jim Dore more. They fully acknowledge that Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate before the nomination and after the nomination. And I will never be voting for Hillary Clinton. And while I'm at it, why don't I just go ahead and just tell you the candidates that I'm not going to be voting for? Because it's going to be a really interesting election. And I want to be very clear. Any Democrat listening, especially like people like Ben Mankiewicz, because Ben Mankiewicz is worse, and Sam Cedar, they're worse. They're a whole lot worse than those guys. They're like super, like they're kind of like, I wouldn't say like Tom Hartman, because Tom Hartman's cool, kind of. But anyways, there's, like, let me tell you all the candidates that I will not be voting for in the 100%, like, these are the candidates I will not 100% I will 100% never vote for if they get the Democratic nomination. Cory Booker, Julian Castro, John Delaney, Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, John Hickenlooper, Michael Bennett, Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg, Sherrod Brown, Steve Bullock, Bill de Blasio, Stacey Abrams, Eric Holder, Terry McAuliffe, Wayne Massine, Seth Moulton, Beto O'Rourke, Tim Ryan, Eric Swalwell, Hillary Clinton. None of them. I won't be voting for any of them if they win the Democratic nomination. I might say, wait, didn't you like Stacey Abrams before? Yeah, well, Stacey Abrams is getting a little too close to the corporate hand. She's just getting a little too close. I mean, these guys, they won't even, they barely even, like, it's baffling, like, and I'm 100% believe, because Ben Mankiewicz said it himself on the show, like, what will happen if Kirsten Gillibrand is the nominee? I know what you should do. You guys shouldn't endorse her, and you should instead endorse someone like Ian Schlockman. No, you're gonna endorse her anyways? Okie dokie. Not me. And, well, that's just how it is. I am not going to be endorsing or voting for any of those candidates. And, by the way, Cenk, I will be intellectually honest with my vote. I will vote the same way in North Carolina as I would vote in California, and in Ohio, and in Hawaii, and in Alaska. Any state, my vote would have still been Jill Stein in 2016. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report. I have a new one coming out soon about the electoral fusion banning. It'll be historical, kind of. What are your thoughts on Cenk Uygur? You like him? You hate him? Or do you think he's a libtard cuck? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below.